Chapter 5, Interpersonal Problem Solving. The chapter objectives include the following. Identify 3 types of problems that would appropriately be addressed through interpersonal problem solving. Distinguish between reactive and proactive approaches. Balance the potential value of interpersonal problem solving with the possible cost of time as well as personnel resources. Assess whether any specific professional problem faced is likely to be resolved through interpersonal problem solving. State and carry out the steps in a systematic interpersonal problem solving sequence with colleagues, other professionals, and parents or family members using appropriate strategies to facilitate the process. And lastly, identify context factors that may affect the effectiveness of group problem solving. There are 2 types of problem solving, reactive and proactive. Reactive problem solving involves responding to a crisis or dilemma that requires attention and action in a relatively brief time frame. Proactive problem solving, on the other hand, involves responding to an anticipated situation that focuses attention and triggers the problem-solving process before a crisis occurs. For either type of problem-solving situation, if there is a systematic approach in place to address both, we can spend less time responding reactively and more time responding proactively. Problem solving and diversity. Bias may occur when the student who is the focus of the problem solving is from a different background. When participants in problem solving hold strong beliefs, interpersonal problem solving may be particularly complex. It is important to recognize this as we engage in problem solving situations. When deciding whether to problem solve an issue, we should consider a couple of questions to guide us. Is this a problem we need to solve? There may be situations that are problematic, but may be better solved by others. Secondly, is collaborative problem solving the best approach? There are times in which a direct approach is more effective and efficient. Response to intervention, or RTI, is a special type of problem solving which is referred to as technical. Under the tiered approach of RTI, if a student's data indicates lack of progress or success, problem solving must occur. With most RTI models, a prescribed set of solutions is in place to address the identified problems. There are 6 steps involved in interpersonal problem solving: identifying the problem, generating potential solutions, evaluating potential solutions, selecting the solution, implementing the solution, and finally, evaluating the outcomes. We must know that a problem exists in order to solve it. The characteristics of a well-defined problem include the following. A discrepancy exists between the current situation and the desired situation. Participants share the perception that the problem exists. Participants agree on the factors that define the discrepancy. And lastly, problem statements invite a wide range of potential solutions. There are strategies that can be incorporated when identifying a problem. First, think of the problem identification as a process. It can be convergent or divergent. In a convergent process, we focus on rapidly narrowing the problem description. This often occurs in schools and is not always efficient. By narrowing the focus too soon, we may miss potential solutions. In a divergent process, we explore possible solutions more thoroughly. We also want to describe the problem precisely, using concrete, measurable, and specific language. It is also important to use multiple sources to confirm the problem so that we are sure a problem exists. When identifying a problem, we should ensure that we allow adequate time. Oftentimes, problems are identified too quickly. As a result, the problem is not adequately described, which could inhibit potential solutions. Lastly, the problem-solving context should be monitored throughout the process. Brainstorming, brainwriting, and nominal group technique are three ways in which we can generate potential solutions. All are described on the slides that follow. One of the most frequently used strategies for generating solutions is brainstorming. Brainstorming includes some basic rules as follows. Accept all ideas without evaluating them. Freely propose solutions. Record or list all ideas generated. And lastly, play with the ideas to see if additional solutions can be generated. Brainwriting is another option used to generate potential solutions. This might be used when open discussion may not be productive. If the participant group is large and everyone does not have an opportunity to speak, this might be a better option than brainstorming. Lastly, this option can be used as a fresh perspective. Oftentimes, brainstorming is overused, and this is an effective alternative. In brainwriting, participants write each idea on a sticky note or index card and place it in the middle of the table. Once all participants have placed their cards in the middle of the table, each person selects another person's stack of ideas and reads them to see if they generate more solutions. If more solutions are generated, they too can be written on sticky notes. The nominal group technique combines aspects of both brainstorming and brainwriting. This technique is used to ensure equal opportunity for participation. Nominal group technique has a long history of successful application. The process is complete when a clear pattern of preference evolves from the prioritized solutions of the participants. In the nominal group technique, participants are broken into groups of 4 or 5. Then, they write ideas on sticky notes. When that is done, each person shares orally and by writing on a piece of chart paper one idea that they have had. The next person does the same. This happens round-robin style until all options are presented. Once potential solutions are generated, it is critical that they are evaluated. There are many ways to evaluate potential solutions. The text suggested a two-step evaluation process. In step 1, participants list positive and negative aspects of the generated solutions, eliminating some by weighing advantages and disadvantages. Once that is done, the group can outline all tasks that will be required to implement the remaining potential solutions and determine which solutions makes the most sense to implement based on the tasks. There are also other factors that must be considered when selecting a solution. Consider the following factors. Intrusiveness. Is the solution too intrusive? Feasibility. Is the solution reasonable? Personal preference. Consider the preference of those who will be most responsible for implementation. Successful outcome is dependent upon the commitment and the attitude of those directly involved in the implementation. It is critical that we adequately prepare for the implementation of the solution. That includes the following: finalize implementation plans, specify detailed arrangements, and assign responsibilities. Determine the criteria for determining success. Schedule a time for the evaluation of outcomes. And lastly, implement the solution. Evaluating the outcome contains several steps. First, determine whether the established goal has been obtained. Next, determine whether those involved in the problem-solving process are satisfied with the impact of the intervention or strategy. And lastly, plan different courses of action depending on what you learn during the problem-solving steps. Chapter 5 also identified other considerations for practice. Evaluate the seriousness of the problem, work problem-solving strategies into conversations, determine the cultural diversity of group members, allow all participants to have roles in the process, and finally, remember problem-solving is not convincing another to accept a predetermined solution. This concludes the Chapter 5 presentation.